specifically. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the only thing, yeah, I don't know really. Yeah, in terms of my parents, I have actually been feeling a bit guilty this week because I still haven't contacted them, and I don't know how they're doing or anything. I haven't even spoken to my brother actually. Um, and sorry, I just realised I'm recording mine. I'm not being an observer. I'm just, yeah, forget that. Sorry. Little blip there. Yeah, so basically, yeah, I haven't spoken to my parents. I feel a bit guilty. I'm feeling a bit like, but yeah, with being behind with college work, I kind of feel like I haven't really had the headspace to sort of deal with it, just because, as I said last week, it's all quite complicated in terms of my mum being at home and being very demanding, my dad not coping with her. You know, I think I'm stubborn, meet my mum. So yeah, I'm sort of wondering what's going on. I need to give them a call, really. But yeah, I don't know what else to say, really.
So this guilt you're feeling, is it because you feel like that you should be there, sort of helping your dad deal with your mum? Is that where that sort of guilt is coming from, or?
Yeah, I just I suppose it's a little bit of like what I feel I should be doing as well, and it's probably also a little bit of what it looks like in terms of the fact that like my brother, he works away in Liverpool, and he's had to come down, um, and he's been staying with my dad to sort of be there and help. Um, and I suppose I feel like, I don't know if you call it sibling rivalry, I don't know what you call it, but I feel like, you know, he's there for them and I'm not, and that I should be kind of pulling my weight as a sister, as a daughter, you know, in that sense, even if it's just giving them a call to show that I'm still thinking of them, you know, it would be something. Um, yeah, I haven't visited my mum either. I haven't even popped in just to, you know, for a quick half-hour chat. Not that we do quick half-hour chats in my family, but so yeah, I think I probably put a lot of pressure on myself. What I think I should be doing.
Okay. So so you feel that you should be there because your brother's there helping out and things like that, and you feel that you should be putting yourself out there to sort of help as well.
Yeah, basically, I just worry that I might look like I don't care by the fact that I've not spoken to them. I mean, they know that I struggle. Um, Obviously, they're my family. They know about my mental health. They know me. They know what I can and can't cope with. And so they probably just think it's to do with that. Um, the trouble is with my family, it's all very sort of, you know, people will say, yeah, it's okay to your face, but I know, like, they'll be sort of grumbling behind my back, probably. Um, they may not be, but I just know how we all speak to each other, which is, you know, you can always sort of judge a person's character by how they speak about other people, I find. Um, you know, and there's just, unfortunately, there's always a bit of gossip or, you know, oh, he said this, she said that, you know, and it
Mm.
does get a bit draining. So I suppose I'm worrying, I'm overthinking about, you know, the fact that I'll say to my parents, I'm sorry I haven't called because blah blah blah, and they'll say, yeah, that's fine, we understand. But then it might be, you know, my dad to my brother, oh, she's selfish, she's not been calling. Or Stephen might be, my brother, he might be feeling a bit like, well, I'm here and I'm doing all the work and why is she not? But I think he kind of gets a little bit of a saviour complex anyway, so he probably enjoys the fact that I'm not doing anything, which sounds awful, but yeah, he does hate it if anyone else seems to be. sort of, you know, I don't know what the word is, sort of contributing in a way that sort of puts him in the dark. If the spotlight is shining on someone else, he doesn't like it. But there you
go. Okay. So, like before, you said about sibling rivalry. So, are you sort of not calling or not going around there to sort of avoid that sort of conflict, or?
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I kind of haven't contacted them because the last time I saw them, I put my foot in it. I ended up getting upset and crying because basically it's hard to explain, but at that point that we went round, my mum had just got home. She was in a care home, and she went home on the stipulation that she had a catheter put in, simply because she's bedbound, and she was asking for the bedpan 24/7. You know, hence why I say she's very demanding. She doesn't move herself, and if it's not, you know, toileting, it's she wants a drink, or you know, silly things like cats are on her legs and she wants someone to move them off. When she can still move her arms, you know, it's just silly things like that. She wants a drink, or she wants this, she wants that. She's just very demanding, and but also she wants to be at home. I think, you know, it's only natural. People want to die in their own home. So obviously she's dying from breast cancer. But she fails to see how she's impacting on my dad. She fails to see that he can't cope. And she doesn't, it seems like she doesn't care. I don't know. I think she's so sort of tunnel visioned on what she wants. She's not looking outside of that. And so the first thing my dad said to me when we got there that day, because there was talk of her going back in home again, but the first thing he said was, "Oh, you know, your mum thinks you're the only one on her side. Don't mention anything about her going back into a home." And I just find it so frustrating, because to me, he's essentially asking me to lie. Now, historically, my dad is a liar, and I'm not. I'm very open and very honest, possibly to the point where I'm too much, too open, too honest. I've had to learn to kind of know when to share and when not to share, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. To me, leaving something out is lying by omission. That's still lying in my eyes, because you're not being upfront. You're not being, you know, it feels deceitful to me. So it's just not in my nature. So if someone tells me to lie just to keep the peace, which is kind of how, in my eyes, how a liar thinks, you know, anything for an easy life, and they don't care, they'll just lie to you know, to smooth things over or whatever. I'd rather have the conflict and just pull the cat out of the bag, to be honest. But yeah, so, but see, the other problem is this is why I said it's quite complicated, that my mum is stubborn and she wants what she wants, but then my dad won't be firm with her. He'll just tell her what he thinks she wants to hear. So then I'm saying, well, you do realise you need to go back into a home, blah, blah, blah. And then he's telling her something else. And I'm just like, for goodness sake. And I just get caught in the middle. And I get wound up, really. So, and at that point, especially because I'd upset things, because it got to a head, and I asked my dad to come into the room, and I wanted him to say to her in front of me, yes, you need to go into home. But he wouldn't. He just sort of pussyfooted about it again, really. You know, and that's why I ended up crying, because he'd asked me not to do it, and that's how it ended up. And I felt like I'd gone against his wishes, and it was just a bit of a mess. And I think I felt a bit sheepish after that, really, to contact them again, because I thought it was that sort of feeling that, well, I can't do anything right, so what's the point? of spending time, because I'm just getting caught in the middle and I'm just making it worse. So, and then obviously with everything else going on, and it just, yeah, trying to catch up on college work and stuff like that. It's just like I just can't deal with it. It takes up too much sort of emotional energy, really.
Yeah, yeah. So you sort of feel really, really torn at the moment. Obviously, from your dad expecting you to sort of lie, and that goes against your sort of nature. Your personal human nature. So you sort of feel torn between doing what you feel's right and sort of what your father expects of you.
Yeah, basically. There seems to be like a really long silence. I'm just checking I'm not stuck in a loop or anything.
No,
It's
that's
just
all
Mum
right. There's
just
no.
kept nodding like I was on a loop. Just
Yeah,
just making sure I'm not like it wasn't a glitch.
yeah. So, how do you feel about it? About hearing that back. Had, ha,
Yeah, I mean it's a good summary. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm just getting frustrated. I mean, the last time I spoke to my brother, he felt the same. Anyway, of this sort of, because what was his phrase? You can't get upset. I can't remember. It was to do with water, and it was something like, "Don't get upset when water makes you wet," or something. I don't. I don't really understand it, and I probably because I've not remembered it correctly, but I think it was just the idea of just kind of accepting what they're both like, that my mum won't listen and my dad won't be firm, and we just sort of have to try and manage it, I guess. I think it's just the main thing is that we're worried about my dad because, um, my mum's probably still got a couple of months left. She seems to be quite sort of strong going with it. I mean, she was diagnosed February last year, and she's not had any treatment for it. So I think that's quite well. I don't know what the average is for cancer anyway, but so it's not. What I'm saying is, it's not like she's only got a couple of weeks left, and he's got to plough on for a couple of weeks. Because she's just demanding 24/7. He's not getting any sleep. He's got night carers, but there's only budget for sort of 2 or 3 nights. So then the nights he doesn't have the nighttime care, she's still constantly demanding through the night as well. And we're just worried, how long he can keep that up for. Because the issue is, because my mum has mental capacity, obviously she has to agree to go in a home. So unless my dad does speak up to the authorities, to the carers that are coming in, so it's on record, and he actually says, I can't cope with her, then he's basically, we're stuck in this situation, which is why I get annoyed at both of them, really. Because, my mum won't agree, but then my dad won't speak up either, and then that's it. We're just sort of banging our heads against a brick wall, really. Yeah.
You said about you all sort of managing and things like that, and obviously understandable from your dad. He's sort of struggling to care for your mum and sort of manage and things like that with the whole situation in general. How are you managing it all?
Um, well, probably not contacting them is a way of managing it, really. It's my first sort of default coping mechanism is to withdraw. Hence, last week with college, when I felt, when I felt like I couldn't go on, it was that sense of like, just give up because that's the easiest thing to do. I tend to fall for that. I think also just in terms of just generally in my life, I tend to retreat. I tend to not only for like recharge time, which is natural and healthy, but sometimes it can go too far where I would probably over isolate myself. Um, and it's a form of detachment, really. I suppose I'm sort of protecting myself in a way. If I'm not contacting them, it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and I can kind of put it away in a little box, come back to it when I can deal with it, kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I do find it hard to kind of juggle things that obviously take a lot of emotional energy or a lot of concentration. It's trying to concentrate on all the college work, but also with counselling, there's a lot of there's all the self-awareness stuff in the background, which does take up a lot of emotional energy, and it's just really hard to sort of deal with both, really.
Mm. I'll just let you know, Julia, we've got about 4 minutes left of the session. You said about withdrawing and you said retreating as well. Did you want to go a bit further into that about them feelings?
So I think on the depressive side of my bipolar cycles, I've in the past tried to get rid of it, but it sort of still keeps coming back as a visual. I have a kind of what I call a cave of despair, and it's sort of like an internal place in my imagination that when things get too tough, I retreat there, and it's just like my own little space. It may be dark and dreary, but I'm on my own. There's no demands. There's no responsibilities, which is a recurring struggle in my life. Hence why the need to sort of retreat and be on my own. It's like a sense of, no, this is too much. I have to I have to fall back. I can't deal with it, sort of thing. I've learned to sort of try and keep a balance of what was I going to say? Allowing myself time to wallow, but obviously not to the point where it sort of goes beyond and I can't pull myself out of it, so to speak. I think sometimes, that sort of rest isn't a bad thing anyway. It's just the fact that perhaps it could be seen to be negative because I call it a cave of despair. So I have tried to change it into something like, something a bit more positive, like just a tree house, something, or I imagine myself being in nature on my own, as long as it's solitary. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a cave of despair because that does sound quite awful, really. I try to sort of change it into something a bit more, as in just like a sort of quiet place of peace instead of a cave, so to speak.
Okay, so it's this you're sort of basically having some time to yourself, really, because by the sounds of it, there's a lot of people demand a lot of things from you. Whether it's your time, your energy. So this sort of cave of despair it's like your safe haven where you can just relax, and just not have that demand and stuff off other people. Is that right?
also, like, generally I need recharge time anyway. I do tend to get drained very easily from stimulation, um, and that's because of being a highly sensitive person, deep thinking introvert, whatever you want to say, that I hence why I get sensory overload and need the quiet time. It's not just being on my own, but generally quiet. Like if I was on my own in the house, but there was like building work going on outside,
Sure.
or someone in a car playing loud music, like that would grate on me, because it's the sensory. I need to recharge my batteries in that sense. It's a little bit like, if you imagine a net, the holes in my net are so much finer, so I'm taking in so much more information all the time, and I need processing time, basically.
Sure.
It takes me longer to sort of decompress and think through everything.
Yeah. Okay then, Julia, that's the end of the session today. So you spoke about your mum, with her being ill, your father struggling with coping with your mum, your brother being down, and you feeling a little bit guilty because you haven't sort of went round and see your mum and dad. You haven't phoned them or anything like that. And you just spoke about your sort of cave of despair where you just want to retreat and just have some time to yourself. I've got an opening again next week for the same time. Would you be interested in coming back?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, it's good to see you, Julia, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Whew. Awesome. Let's stop this.